This is game one between horses and bears. I have James casting with me,
Hello.
and we're gonna unpause and play at fast speed for now while people still do their build orders. And in civs, we have on horses' side, me in the red, I was Goths, Quiche in the pocket as Vietnamese, and Obi-Wan on the other flank as Saracens. And
And
then,
then
yeah, go ahead.
in green is me as Goths. Then Prophet as the Pocket. In teal is Slavs. And always is gray as Vikings.
Yep.
So why did you guys pick Vietnamese? I was confused because team positions is on. So you know who the flanks are. Did you just want to know which
Um,
side the flanks were on?
that was part of it because we thought there was a pretty big skill gap between you and the rest of your team. Not like a huge skill gap, but a little bit. And also, the unique tech giving 500 gold to each player was in our minds.
Okay. And there was no sling until 35 minutes for this tournament,
Um,
so that
yeah,
gold can come in handy. It, normally on a 3v3, you have a 2v1 on each side and
yeah,
a 1v1. So depending on how it goes, one person may have to survive against two.
exactly. Which is why we set the sling rule to allow sling, but only at a certain time. So the pocket has to really be prepared to either help both sides or be ready to sling.
Yeah, and Goths is great Civ for holding one against two. I think that's why you picked Goths. That's definitely why I picked Goths. My team strategy has been for Prophet to go to Always side, and I fight by myself and try to hold while they can push and win for our team.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna switch to normal playback speed now that people are hitting Imperial Age. Um, so my side's all relatively even up to now. Obi-Wan is Saracens. I would say the best civilization for the position. He's cutting downwards, while you're on his other side, and you're cutting forwards as Goths.
Yeah, I think the current top players are switching to more of a boom before a push. It used to be you would cut straight to your opponent and fight with halbs, but so many players are able to respond to that it's ineffective. So Obi's going for a boom here before he pushes, essentially playing a pocket as the flank.
Yeah, that is an interesting point. I think games have gotten a little more boomy, even in the high levels. I still have a tendency to cut really straightforward, but I do open more space than I used to. I realized that after, in one of my previous tournament games against Shania Twain on 7x7, it's especially important on that map to have a lot of space because you're not going to have any food banked up from like feudal or castle age.
Yes, and the problem with doing a fast push is all of your space is your forward. So if you lose your forward, you really don't have a lot of room in the back of
Yeah,
your base for military production.
and I think I got really punished by that when I was against Shania Twain. I had all my farms forward and I lost those and I could not produce.
If we look at Phil's, Obi's at 110, always is in a similar spot. Um, you, red and green, you and I are both under 100 flanks.
Yeah.
So Obi has a clear Vil lead, and it looks like Quiche is cutting to him. So that side will potentially be a tough fight for me.
Yeah. So when we decided who Quiche should cut to, we just kind of decided that whichever side James was on, because we figured that if any of us was going to lose, it would probably be against James, even though Obi-Wan had a very good civilization.
And I think that's what our team relies on quite a bit, because Prophet and Always together are very tough to fight as one person.
Yeah, and I realized that the hard way. I opened relatively weak against Grizzly here. I made the questionable decision to make a castle as a flank.
Oh boy. Now, the only reason that you would want a castle for Goths is so your infantry comes out faster. Generally, if you make a castle as a flank, it tanks your entire eco.
Yeah, I think.
As my castle is going up.
Oh, well. What a great point you made there. But see, mine's just starting right now as the fighting's starting. I think that's a really bad time for a castle,
Definitely.
because the castle isn't influencing the fight at all, and it's taking up a lot of resources. As you can see, I'm at like
Where
less
you
than
have your
1,000.
castle, if Always was paying attention, he could run forward, kill those bills, and
Yeah.
you would potentially have a castle half built.
The one good thing is that the castle really stalled his push. Although, it wouldn't have been a push in the first place had I not made a castle.
Yes, with Vikings and Slavs, neither get bombarded. So to fight a castle, you either
Yeah.
need to get rams in or make trebs, which trebs require your own castle. He does have the space for rams. Prophet
Yeah.
not quite connected. The other side isn't even thinking about fighting yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how slow Obi-Wan has taken it as a flank.
When you have two 2v1s like this, the two want to get the fight started as quickly as possible. It's
Yeah.
essentially a race to see which two can kill the one fastest.
And I think especially as Saracens, which has a very strong opening, you should be able to rush down your opponent quickly and overwhelm them.
You do want to be a little careful with Saracens. They need a lot of gold. They don't have good trash, so you can make jams, you can make seed, you can make arbs. That all takes gold. You can make bombards. And if you push before you have enough eco up, you can find yourself having to fall back onto pikes against jams. But if you have a pocket
Yeah.
there to help you, there's really no reason not to push.
Yeah.
I guess you guys didn't see what side Prophet was going to until his units are coming in.
Well, to
Right
be
about
honest, we
that.
could have expected that, because like usually the two weaker players will cut together and the stronger player will hold. But maybe not. I guess we thought that we should still 2v1 the stronger player. And here,
I'm not sure about always going pikes. He gets
yeah,
his full units out. Well, he's not even popped. But pikes are so bad against champs in a castle.
yeah. And he is getting some rams out, so my castle is taking some damage. The onagers and the rams are getting stuff done.
Yeah,
But-
there's enough siege from Prophet at this point that pikes can hold.
Yeah, and my champions are not able to push out.
But most of Prophet's siege is protecting always houses which aren't under attack. So always is fighting by himself at the moment, and the fighting's opened up on the other side.
Yeah. Now at this point, I think as gods here, there's really nothing you can do against siege onagers or villas, bomber cannons, other than hold or delay.
Yeah, you choke with buildings and make it as painful to push you as possible.
I guess you are choking your own units as well a little bit.
Yep. Anything to delay the inevitable.
It doesn't really matter because they're gonna die anyways. But yeah, it will help. And I think I was too focused on pushing on my side. I thought I could push here, so I wanted to make a lot of siege units and get out. And also note at this point sling is allowed, so I think I did get some. I got a lot this game, but I think I got some right away. Because I had a pretty strong economy, but I'm still against Slavs and Vikings. And that I'm losing a lot of infantry to these siege units.
Yeah, a couple more bombards would help you quite a bit.
I did have more, but they were stuck behind the siege workshop.
And that's when you would want siege workshops in the back of your base. This is the problem with the forward. A single siege workshop stuck with behind trees, whereas if you'd cut a little more space around your base, you could have had those buildings protected.
At this point, I do add more barracks in the back of my base, but no siege workshops yet.
Now, Obi doesn't have quite enough champs to protect the Arbs if I manage to get Huskarls out.
Yeah, Huskarls are not great against champions, but they're good enough. It's not like they're hard to counter. So, they could definitely sneak through and kill some, like they're doing now, at least for me at 39 minutes. Even if they don't kill the Arbalists, they do tank a lot of damage and slow them down.
And at this point, my team starts to send some sling. They generally get their sling upgrades early, but wait to sling until I start dying.
Yeah, at this point you are also a little short on barracks, but you are gods, so like 4 barracks is closer to 10 barracks for most other civs.
And that's why the castle is up to get the upgrade.
And as you say that,
really
mine goes down.
Microing.
Once my castle goes down, I know it's a little bit precarious because I can quickly get overwhelmed.
Prophet has some trebs now. That's what they were missing earlier. It's a way to slam buildings from far back.
I tried to get them.
So many units. There's no way for you to get through.
Yeah, I tried to get my bomber cannons in range, but it was way too many units. So this is the point when I think I tell Quiche to start cutting to me at this point because I know that I'm not going to survive much, and I know that Obi-Wan can do it on his own. At least I thought so.
That, I think, was the mistake.
Yeah.
I'm very good at looking more dead than I am. When you have sling from your teammates, you don't need much of a base.
Yeah. When I was on voice with him, he's like, but he has no base left. How does he have so many units? But Obi-Wan tends to be, he doesn't always adapt on time.
And at this point I still have 40 farms, which is not enough for Goths, but that's enough farms for a normal civ. It's a bit on the low end.
Yeah, but with Sling you'll be plenty fine.
And my Scorps are so cost effective here. They're not making the right units to push me for the same cost.
And
that I'm
also at this
spending.
point, Obi-Wan is slinging tons of resources to me, so he actually has very little left in the bank. And I think that was a bit of a mistake we made as well, is we slung a little too much. Another round of sting just comes in. And that's like 1,000 gold, which is a lot more wood, especially when he has less than 1,000 remaining, and less than 1,000 food as well.
Yeah, the Scorps from you on the other side, I think if you had them earlier, you would have held a lot longer.
For sure, yeah.
To hold against 2, you need Siege. We'll see if the Scorps go down. As soon as they go down, I think you will be dead unless Quiche gets there in time.
Yeah, so I knew I was missing scorpions, but I didn't know I was missing so many siege workshops. As you can see now, my base is a mess. It has tons of siege workshops all over it. Not tons, but enough. But for a very long time, I was only on like less than 5. Looking back on Obi-Wan's side, I think he could have definitely used some more forward production. I think if he had just spammed barracks in your old base, then you would have a lot harder time pushing back.
Yeah, the Helms managed to keep the champions occupied, so if he's
Yeah.
not consciously trying to take down buildings, my base can stay up for a long time.
Yeah, I told him to add bombard cannons. I think he was running out of resources though. He was stinging it all to me, so
You really want in an army a long-range way to take out buildings.
yeah. And enemy siege, because siege onagers will kill their scorpions, but only if you can get close. And when there's so many helps on the other side, then like that's not a. It's really easy to lose your siege onagers.
No bombards on this side at this point, so my siege is safe.
Yeah, and
The
even
only
against,
problem here is the arbs, which the scorpions can take out.
yeah. On my side, Quiche is switching here with his arbalest, so we're actually doing quite well. And I'm at max pop plus a little bit because I'm Goths. And I'm
The
working
Slavs
my way.
do need more siege here.
Yeah. I mean, Slav infantry kills Goth infantry pretty well. But
Yeah, Slav Halbs works. They are producing from quite far back.
oh, that is true. I think that's a very underrated mistake that a lot of players make.
And at this point, the other side, I've stabilized.
Yeah.
And Obi's now finding himself getting pushed a bit.
And he is adding more production in the choke point. So he does know to add that he wants to stall out with production.
But again, he's sending in champs from the back of his base.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, some champs is better than no champs, for sure. But walking champs are not as good as fighting champs. On the other
Those two
hand,
trebs from Prophet are still up. It's impressive.
oh yeah. Oh, and this is where we hit the restore. Quiche disconnects. So that's the end of the first recording. We will pick back up in a second recording where we'll do the second half of this game. It goes on for another little while. So, we'll see you then. So we are back with part 2 of the game 1 between Trojan horses and Team Bear. we left off with me 2v1, but with Quiche coming to my aid, and at the same time, James being 2v1 for much of the game, but now Quiche leaving him, and him being able to recover.
If you look at the score difference, your team's about 10k ahead. That's generally the point of no return in a lot of games.
Yeah, I think some of it is just KD. That's not
Yeah,
usually something you
always-
get as Goths.
Always has a lot of pikes that I'm sure have
Yeah.
died.
So I'm trying to run into the economy, but I don't quite make it.
Now the problem on the other side, I've had 2 bombards up for a good 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm short on res, but if you have 2 bombards, you can steadily push through
Yeah.
any buildings your opponent has.
I think at this point we should have added trade. I told Quiche to because he was the pocket player. We probably should have done it a little earlier, even. Because I think that's something that will, like, keep your economy sufficient at all times.
Trade is good. I think the problem here is more unit choice. A lot of this game will be spent losing more units than he killed. If you're doing that, even with trade, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage.
Yeah. I mean, Obi-Wan definitely probably should have switched his units around a little bit. He could have gone much heavier siege and much less infantry. Or even something like Arbalest would work.
Or protecting his siege onager. He had about 5 or 6 that all went down to the same 2 bombards.
Yeah, that's why I wanted him to add his own bombard cannons, but I guess he was running low on resources. At this point, I don't need Sting anymore. My economy is sufficient. So we're pushing on this side. I have 6 bombard cannons, a few scorpions. Prophet does a really good job of trying to get into the economy. I mean, he fails the first few times, but it's only helps. He's barely losing anything by doing it. And he does idle much of my army here.
Yeah, you generally want to wall a bit with buildings as you move so that people can't do that. It's generally ineffective at killing your eco, but it pulls a lot of champs.
Yeah.
So the best way to fight champs is to just run past them with helps.
And I think I will at some point, but it would have helped earlier on to have, like, barracks just in a few places so that I could choke point helps and stop them in their tracks.
At this point, archery range is up for me. Obi has so many champs and siege onager. Generally, if there's siege onager up, you don't want to go heavy on scorpions. So it looks like I'll be opting for hand cannons.
Yeah, at this point, Obi-Wan's economy is good again. So this would be a good time for bombard cannons because he is getting some from Quiche, but Quiche cannot micro both sides. I think bombard cannons here would really allow him to push forward because you built archery ranges, but if he knocked them down right away, then you still wouldn't have any answers.
Yeah, those archery ranges are also there. You put buildings up, it takes time to push past them.
Yeah.
And my eco's nearly stabilized back up to over 40 farms. A little short on wood income, which I need for gold, which is why I'm so heavy on halberdier.
Yeah, I think you also could have built some more lumber camps.
Yeah, and I was surprised to still be alive at this point.
I guess that is true. Sometimes, like, there's different points in where you're losing where you try really hard and then you stop trying much at all.
Yeah, or priorities change. The priorities change. If the priority's staying alive, you don't really focus on your eco too much, especially if you're getting slain.
Yeah.
Once these arbs go down for Quiche, it's going to be tough for Obi to hold.
Yeah. The Saracens are really good at spamming champions, but spamming champions can only do so much for you.
Well, Quiche isn't contributing anything really to this side that Obi couldn't do it himself. Obi gets arbs, Obi gets bombards, those are the 2 units Quiche has here. If Quiche was fighting full on your side, you would be able to push a lot faster.
Well, Obi-Wan is close to max pop, so he doesn't always have the population space. And he doesn't always have the resources. But yeah, effectively he could be doing the same thing Quiche is.
Well, he has 70 plus farms. That's way too many unless you're slinging.
He was slinging, yeah. But
that's actually a crazy amount of farms.
Yeah, it's still a bit much. But on this side, we're actually pushing pretty well. Obi-Wan sends siege onagers over. I think he misheard me when I was telling Quiche to kill other people's siege onagers. But that's alright, I mean it helps. Prophet is sending scout cavalry into my base.
So it looks like Obi was microing those siege onagers. That actually made a huge difference on the other side.
Yeah.
Because I was able to move forward in between his barracks, though most of his units were walking, trying to walk past mine, and not actually fighting.
So at this point, I'm not really aware that Obi-Wan's actually not winning. And I thought we just had this game in a bag, because I thought you were dead and we were pushing these guys. So I kind of let the pressure off a little bit. I start adding trade. I should still be working hard to get into the economies. Goths don't have the best raiding units, but they do still have raiding units.
Not only did your team add trade, but you added trade pretty forward, so it was easy to get to on my side.
Yeah. If I had known Obi-Wan was not stopping you still, then I probably would have focused more on this side where I could have prevented them from stinging you so much by putting pressure on.
And I think at this point, my eco's back. I'm able to add gold units, and that shits the momentum. I have hand cannons, Huskarls, heavy scorps, bombards. There's really little Obi can do unless he puts up a lot of buildings in his eco now.
Yeah, and he's running low on wood himself. He has a lot of food that he could be selling. I'm not sure if he is. Because once again, 70 farms is a little much.
Saracens do get Hussar. If you have 70 farms, that's a sign that you might want to go Hussar. But against Goths, who have Halberdier and can make them so quickly, Hussar is really ineffective.
Yeah, he said he wanted to switch into Hussar. I told him it's not the greatest choice, and that he should just like sell his resources for siege. But I mean, it is difficult either way, because champions definitely are not the answer at this point.
This is what I like to do, is to make units from every building. So I have hand cannons from the archery range, heavy scorps and bombard cannons from the siege workshop, Alps, Champs, Huskarls. You really need a lot to counter all of that.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm actually stalling out on my side. I'm even losing bound.
I think the scout cav from Prophet here is a mistake. They cost a lot of food to just be sending them to their deaths.
Yeah, and without any upgrades, not even the light cav upgrade, which is incredibly cheap. Like, you shouldn't be... If you're gonna make them, you should mass them up, and then, like, find a really good raiding point. And make one strong raid.
This Prophet gets some huge siege onager shots.
Yeah. That is the risk of using Arbalest. It is still a good unit. It helped out a lot on this side. They just slowly killed more and more Halberdiers.
If you go Arbs, you need to space them and pay attention. It's best. He should have gone champion and a few Arbs. Full Arbs is not really effective on Force Nothing because the goal is not to kill units, it's to kill buildings. To do that, you have to kill some units, but you want, if he had more bombards here, champions, he can push forward. Arbs are very good at holding and stopping units from running past, but they do very little for a push.
I mean, in general, we did have the weaker late game civs, except for Saracens. Like, Goths do not compete well with Vikings and Slavs once they have strong economies. Vietnamese can do alright with micro, but Quiche is trying to micro both sides, and that's very difficult. So, it's not super viable. And now Prophet is starting to push us back with Slav Siege and Infantry. His cavalry is not doing anything yet, but eventually it does get into the economy. And in Quiche's position, I asked him to add trade, but I don't think it ended up happening. Because if he had half the amount of lumberjacks and like 25 trade instead, it would have helped a lot.
Yeah, Vietnamese do get elephants. It's a good move to not use elephants. Vikings, Red Cab, although I don't think always had a castle. But with Prophet going halves, Goth halves on the other side, Vietnamese elephants are not super helpful. You definitely need a much better eco to justify. It's not as cost effective, but they're very good for pushing since they have more HP.
And that was proved in the last game when Obi-Wan made melee elephants. Even though they don't even have bloodlines or any armor upgrades except the first, the amount of HP still gives them enough to just tank through a lot of enemy units.
So my mistake on this, on my side, I thought there was more of a force behind this. I really should have just cut to the left, ignored the choke point. But as Goths, you do tend to want choke points.
Yeah, so Obi-Wan
so much production
is trying to transition into Arbalest, but he doesn't have the production up. At this point, he's kind of struggling. He doesn't really know what units to make against so many enemy units, like, as you said, Scorpions, Bomber Cannons, Hand Cannons, Halberdier Champion, Huskar. Like, there's just so many different things in the Goth arsenal that it's hard to counter it all.
If you look at his eco, he just lost, well, I guess when you have 70 farms, you can afford to lose a couple dozen.
Oh, yeah. But I think the amount of sting he sent really hurt him. And I mean, that's not entirely his fault. I did ask for it. I'm not saying he did bad for anything on that side, but ultimately, he doesn't have the units here to defend. My trade goes down. I had 55 trade, so I was pretty comfortable, but it's a little too late now. Profit is pushing on my side, profiting busily, and on your side, you're in the economies, and they can't mass the units to stop you. And
They're both going Arb this side, which Goths have Huskars, which is a very hard counter to Arbalest. Hussar come in to Halberdier.
Yeah, they kill the Scorpions and nothing else. At this point, I look at the score and I'm like, how are we losing this? Like, we have two players who are over 15,000 score ahead of them. And even our lowest player is still higher than the highest score player. But we are losing ground on all sides. We don't have many units up. I'm max pop, but my army is just not very effective. And Prophet starts getting Hussars successfully into the eco this time, although he's missing armor upgrades. And yeah, you switch into Huskars, and all of a sudden there's not really anything to stop you on this side.
I think switching from champs was Obi's mistake here. When you're in a choke point, champs are not good by themselves, but when someone's in your base, you really need champion, especially against Huskar or Hal.
I think at this point it's a little too late for him. He's out of resources, so he can't really switch into anything.
Well, it's not switching because he was already going champs. He was slower on his switches all game.
Yeah,
which hurt his eco.
When he was pushing you all the way back in your base, he could have switched off of champs into something more reliable to push, instead of making like more and more champions against halberdiers and siege.
When you're in your opponent's base, you would want more arbs. When they're in your base, especially with Huskars, you want more champs. And in a choke point, you need a lot of siege.
Yeah. And Prophet's running around with Hussars. Like, I'm alright on the front here, but Obi-Wan's losing ground. His base is now a battlefield, so he has no economy left. He's making pikemen, which is obviously not a good sign.
But he still has 80 farms.
Where are they even? Oh, I guess they're all the way back to the south. He just built 30 new farms.
He has so much food, so much gold. He could afford to have more champions than he does now.
Yeah. I think part of it is his production's all over the place, and he's rallying it all into the middle, so they're walking a lot. And they're never massing up.
Yeah, that group of bombards was right by his production. I gambled them, expected to lose them, since they're so easy. They're not even protected right there.
Yeah.
But he took too long to acknowledge them.
I still have 40 trade, but at this point I just don't. I can't think of anything I can do to help both sides. I've started cutting through the middle, but it's way too late. I could have done it way earlier.
Yeah, when Quiche was your side, that would have been the play.
Yeah.
At this point, now that Quiche is gone, you really want to be in a choke point as Goths.
There's no choke point though. It's all wide open.
You would wall with buildings and create your own choke point.
Well, yes, that would be ideal, but it's still very hard to wall all of it.
Couldn't get through that side, and they had to go down the middle, they'd be much less effective.
Well, I actually had that part walled off, but a Prophet opened it with siege onager. He just cut the forest. And, but yeah, I was way too late to getting into their economy. I couldn't do it when we were pushing up at the front. Like I tried, but I never got anything really permanently in their economy. And when I decided to go Hussar, it was way too late. I was out of food and wood. I had gold left, but that was it.
Well, it's interesting. Our teams are in a similar spot. Always only has 50 military. He does have 240 on eco.
Oh. Yeah, he has tons of resources. I feel like he could easily delete half his economy.
He had over 100 farms. Talking about Obi's farms. He was slinging for a while, um, but with 30k food, he could have
Yeah.
gone champs.
He shouldn't have needed to make halberdiers at all this game, or pikemen. Yeah, and now everybody realizes we still had a huge score lead, but we didn't have any way back this game. Prophet's Hussars are all over our bases. Like, the top side of the map is just 3 colors, but the bottom side is a rainbow of GG. Obi-Wan tried to add town centers at the bottom. Prophet found it. At the top,
Yeah.
Prophet was killing all the lumberjacks. I think
If you look at my base, it's the buildings are pretty clustered. For like here, it's easy to wall if you need to, because there's only a few spots for units to get through. So as you build forward with Goths, if you keep that structure, then you can protect the choke points a lot. Although that's not the reason why I didn't die. Obi just didn't target houses, neither did Quiche.
Yeah.
If you have someone on the back foot and they're getting sling, if you kill their houses, they have no way to make units, no matter how much resources they have. So that one little thing would have changed the game if they just killed those houses.
Yeah. And if you look at the statistics, Quiche actually has the most units killed and the fewest units lost. And you have the largest army. 217. Grizzly collected the most food. I think that's expected. But I had a lot
over 100 farms.
Yeah. We both got a lot of sling. I got, it says 5,500. And then I sent 5,500 and I received 28,000. You received like 14,000? 142,000.
142.
I was only 100,000 off.
Although this would be more interesting if it was broken down by resource type, because 100k wood is very different from 100k gold.
Yeah, I definitely got more gold because Obi-Wan was there, since it's more efficient to trade gold. And Castle Age Imperial times don't matter that much. Villager High was Grizzly with 250. And yeah, you can see on the timeline his military value was really low.
If you look at the military here, Obi and Grizzly both struggled to keep army out.
Yeah.
You really want a thick, dark-colored bar.
Yeah, yours didn't move much because you were consistently at, like, you were just slowly getting more army. You weren't losing any in huge amounts without replacing it.
Yeah, it's easy to do as Goths, which again, why we both picked Goths.
Yeah.
Quiche and Prophet both able to do that as pockets.
And also because Quiche made Arbalest, they don't usually die as quickly.
Yeah, his KD should have been quite good.
It was. At least the best in the game, but Arbs are not enough to win a game.
Yes, their defensive unit should be sprinkled in, but not be your only unit choice. Well,
Yeah,
after that, that puts your team on the back foot. You do get to select the next map, which could be a bit of a problem for our team, since
yeah,
Always and Profit are much better on 11 by 11 than they are on the smaller maps.
yeah. Always is pretty good on 7x7. But we'll see that next game. So that's it for now. See ya.